Thank you for watching this week's Weatherquest farming forecast recorded on Friday the 10th of May 2019. We're going to start this week's video by looking across the Atlantic at the United States, where we're still dealing with quite a lot of flooding on the upper Mississippi and upper Missouri river valleys, particularly from the states of Minnesota down through Wisconsin, Iowa, and into Illinois and Missouri. And of course, in March we dealt with quite a lot of flooding in Nebraska as well. The impacts on this have meant that 4 of the top 6 corn growing states in the US are significantly behind on corn planting, so struggling there. And also a lot of grain that's been in storage over the winter has been flooded by the rivers topping their banks as well, and the US government not providing the farmers with any compensation for the damaged grain either. And also, unfortunately, we are looking at forecast of the Mississippi River continuing to stay in flood stage until the early part of June, so not a lot of help on the way really in terms of getting rid of this water and things drying out. Back closer to home, we've been dealing with some rain ourselves. In fact, we needed this rain though, and this is the weather radar loop on Wednesday the 8th of May showing this area of low pressure across southwestern parts of Britain spinning around. Lots of rain across northern England and some heavy showers, and you saw a few flashes with red dots there. That's thunderstorms that tracked across southern parts of England as well. So in fact, it was the wettest day across East Anglia on average over the last 12 months. So when you take all of the weather stations in East Anglia, average them together, 15.4 millimeters of rain on the 8th of May, and you can see that beats any other single day over the last 12 months. That really does highlight how dry things have been over the last year. So it didn't feel like a particularly wet day necessarily for all of us, but it did tally up that way. Also with those thunderstorms, there was a little bit of severe weather as well, and this tweet by Dunleavy Vineyards showing some hail on the vineyard there on the 8th of May, and that was caused by those thunderstorms. And also the other piece of news back here at home in the UK that's been put out in the last few days, the Environment Agency has downgraded the irrigation prospects, particularly for East Anglia and parts of Lincolnshire and Northamptonshire, from moderate to poor, which means that they could be looking at some restrictions put in place for irrigation as we go into the summer. Many other regions across southern Britain also dealing with moderate classifications there too. So just something to kind of keep an eye out for as we go through the next month or so. The jet stream over the next couple of days down across southern Britain over the last few days, and that's helped with the rain we've seen. But what you'll notice as we put this into motion is that it waves very far to the north and moves away from us really, and that's going to allow this high pressure to build across northwestern parts of Britain over the next few days. So there's the high that's building. There's the area of low pressure that has brought the rain and showers over the last few days. That's edging away to the east. Still a few scattered showers on Saturday at first, but this high pressure slowly moving from northwest to southeast across northern Britain and into the North Sea as we go through into the first part of next week. So that's going to bring with it quite a bit of settled weather, dry conditions, some sunshine as well, but still a little bit chilly, particularly at night as well. So in some of those nights, particularly Saturday night, Sunday night, in the clear skies, could just have a small risk of some frost, particularly across northern parts of Britain, and possibly even a local ground frost a little further south too. So even though we're into the middle part of May now, still dealing a little bit with that. Spraying wise, well, we had the unsettled weather and the rain over the last few days, so that's made you put the sprayer up a little bit recently. But I think with this high pressure building, we are likely to see an improvement in spraying conditions. So you'll see the green on the maps here highlighting ideal spraying conditions, light winds and no rain. And as that high pressure sets up into the early part of next week, just off to our east, we are looking at quite a bit of decent spraying weather expected. So I think if you're falling a little bit behind there, should be a chance to catch up over the next 4 or 5 days. If you are out on the sprayer and the winds pick up and you're interested in the wind speeds across the region and perhaps some dark clouds on the horizon where the rain is, you can subscribe to WQRadar and put that on your phone and have a look at that, and it'll show you the live weather observations for all the different weather stations across the region. You can put the rainfall in to animate the rainfall and see where it's moving and tracking and seeing if it's headed towards you. And also you can subscribe for lightning alerts too, so quite useful if you're out on the sprayer and worried about a thunderstorm popping up. That will highlight how far away lightning strikes are from you too. So what I want to do for the next few minutes is just talk about the medium range weather forecast. And this particular graph is showing the water gain or water loss that we're expecting. So we're looking at an ensemble of weather models. So we've run a computer model about 50 different times with just slightly different starting conditions, and that has an impact on how the forecast plays out as you go out in time. So this is looking at the next 10 days, looking at the amount of rainfall with the amount of evaporation. And you can see early in this period on Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday, our ground is likely to be a little bit wetter than we are at the moment with the showers that we've seen around. But then by the time we get into Sunday and that high pressure builds like we've shown on the charts, we start to see the evaporation winning out over any precipitation that's around. And the forecast in 10 days time, so by the time we get into the end of next weekend, the ground conditions potentially as much as 20 millimeters drier than they are at the moment. So highlighting that sort of turn back into a much more settled spell of weather as that high pressure builds this weekend and early next week. So how will it play out for the rest of May and into the early part of June? Well, here's the high we've talked about in week 1. So leading up to the 15th of May here, higher than normal pressure sitting across northern parts of Britain, continuing to bring us that dry weather it looks like through at least the middle part of May. And in the second week of our forecast here, we see higher than normal pressure to the north of Britain, lower than normal pressure to the south of Britain, and that will bring us a bit of an easterly feed of air in. I think for the most part, a lot of Britain going to continue to stay in a drier pattern, maybe just some southern areas seeing a little bit more in the way of cloud or rain, but a little bit cool and probably quite dry still through about the 22nd of May. Now, if you're looking for more rainfall, you liked a little bit that you had the last few days and you need some more, I think week 3, that last week of May, is probably your best opportunity for that. So we're seeing lower than normal pressure to the southwest of the British Isles, and that's suggesting that areas of low pressure will move in and bring us a bit of a higher chance of rain. And in fact, this week is the only of the 4 weeks in the forecast that has higher than average rainfall totals that are expected across the south during that sort of last week of May. Then we get into the first week of June, and it does look like by that point we're going to start to see the easterly winds returning, higher than normal pressure across much of northern Britain here, and we'll start to see a slight easterly feed of air and some drying out occurring as we go into early June. So just to summarize all of that, the drying out in the short term after our wetter spell of weather for the next few days, we'll see that high pressure building. Temperatures really throughout this forecast period through the end of May and early June looking to stay pretty near average. Best chance at any unsettled weather and rain around at the end of May, and then a drier spell of weather set to turn back into, I think, as we turn the page into June. Thank you for watching this week's Weatherquest farming forecast. If you've got any questions, feel free to hit us on Twitter, WQ Farming Forecast with the hashtag there, or an email to info@weatherquest.co.uk.